I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the filthy capitalist option. As Sori says, $125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. $125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and you get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at vinsori@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is a community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go on the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch indeed. And a child shall lead them. Rubbish.
Did you use the right one?
Yeah. You guys are in for a treat. This is the last song in our 4-song DJ stream for the big homie DJ AT. DJ AT is right here, but he's also an artiste. He's also an artiste, ladies and gents. And some of his material is actually featured on the thumbnail to this video. If you're not on the DJ stream, if you're watching it, and we will also be featuring pieces of his artwork in the bottom left side throughout the video itself. So that's what we're about here. Okay. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, the time has arrived. Now, Gorgoroth. They're that's the homie, right? We saw a documentary about Gorgoroth. It was Vice, actually. Vice did that, didn't they?
I'm not certain.
They like trekked up to the mountains where this guy lived. Like he lived like as like a recluse.
I'm pretty sure it was them.
And then the one Gorgoroth song we did, his fans said, take this video down immediately. This is cultural appropriation. Like it was insane. The guy was crazy. He was like, I'm gonna send my lawyer, blah blah blah.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, dead ass serious.
What'd you say? Go ahead.
I mean, obviously, I laughed at him. You know what I'm saying? Like, but yeah, they were like mega hostile. They were really mad that I had the audacity because we said Christians. That was the other thing. It's like, you're a Christian. This music isn't for you. You guys have no right to listen to our music. It wasn't anybody from the band. I'm almost certain.
No right.
I'm almost certain it was nobody from the band. It was just, they were just really angry that as Christians we had the audacity to listen to their music. But we're going to do it again.
Check out the comment section on that video.
That
video must be pretty interesting.
Yeah, the video was insane, too. It had girls on cross, all that type of shit, man. It was pretty terrible video.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was not a good video. I didn't like it. Okay, so here we go, guys. Gorgoroth-Satan Prometheus, I think, is the name of the...
Here we go.
The joint. Let's go. Tremolo picking. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Back to our regular scheduled program.
Into the portal.
Holy moly.
That Satan Prometheus part was
Satan
very nice.
Prometheus.
I always have this weird thing where like sometimes when I listen to these, I'm like getting right into a certain part of it, and then I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. What are you singing? This is Satan? I'm swaying around to Satan? This is not good. I'm a Christian, damn it.
Disaster. The riffage was crazy.
Yeah.
The lyric, we're gonna get into the lyrics obviously. The riffage was insane though. Absolutely insane. This was just sometimes with black metal I feel like the lack of production quality and the lack of arrangement and musicianship is like it's excused because it's black metal and we're trying to be avant-garde and blah blah blah, and I'm like, yeah, I think there's some people that are like really good but do that shit on purpose, but I think a lot of it is just it gives an excuse for low quality musicians to say that the reason they're low quality on purpose. It's not because they couldn't do anything better. But this guy is they can write music, this band.
Oh, for sure.
Like this is like legit musicianship. And I understand some of it is deliberate, like Mayhem, but not all of them. And I don't even care if it's deliberate. Like some of the shit is just objectively bad. Like I don't care. Like the Frozen Moon thing, just terrible song. Just a terrible, like it's just a bad song, man.
I forgot about that one.
It's just bad. But this is like really good musicianship. Like this band,
there was so many, and I liked the way that they stopped it right before they did a transition.
Oh yeah.
That was an interesting one.
They did a really good job. They did a really good job as musicians, and I feel like the whole like, oh, we deliberately make bad music. Like I'm like, yeah, man, that's fine. part of me is like, I want to see one of these like terrible bands like actually create something good.
Right.
Prove that you can actually like write good music, and then fine, then I'll accept it. But if you can't, stop.
Exactly. I totally agree.
There's a debate. There's a debate going back and forth, and then Sean goes, "But Satan hates music," which is true. That's why Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam he banned music. Always winter, never Christmas. Okay. Speaking of which, if DJ AT approves it, we're gonna do a bonus. Because Cradle of Filth did a brand new song, and we'll do it if DJ AT approves it. Okay, so here is the lyrics. We're sons of blind faith kneeling to a false Christ. And as my brother Sean says, if you say there's a false Christ, then that necessarily means there's a true one. Right?
Yeah.
So in this guy's universe, Jesus would be the false Christ, and then Satan would be the so Prometheus, right, is the one that showed us how to make fire. Okay. And then the gods punished him.
Okay.
For it, right? So Prometheus is kind of like a hero, and he's kind of there's a lot of correlation between Prometheus and Satan, because in their mind, Satan, Prometheus was punished for sharing with us the knowledge of fire, and Satan was punished for sharing with us the knowledge of knowledge. Okay. Right, and so they see a lot of there's parallel. So Satan, Prometheus, they're looking at those characters as people who wanted to liberate humanity, while God or the gods wanted to trap them and keep them as slaves, because that was like a big thing, especially in ancient Near Eastern paganism, was that the gods made us so that we could work for them as slaves. Okay. So that was like a big idea. So that's why you see God saying, if I was hungry, I wouldn't tell you. Because a lot of times the sacrifices in the ancient world were to feed the gods. Like, we've got a friend, and he feeds his god, he puts his gods to bed all around. Like, I'm not joking, like, it's true. So Prometheus and Satan kind of become this, and as Alan says, theistic Satanists think Prometheus is an aspect of Satan, right? So the entire idea of God is up there trying to keep stuff from us, and then Satan's there trying to liberate us. That's kind of the idea. And so, there's a lot of really interesting understandings of how that works. Because one question people have is, well, why did God... and it's really interesting because in the intertestamental period, right, with Shemyaza and all those boys, they came down from heaven. These are divine beings in the between the Old and New Testament. So these are divine beings that came down, and they taught us. They taught women makeup, they taught men instruments of war, yada yada yada. And so I'm not particularly certain from a biblical worldview that the Prometheus story is that far off. Now, as far as, that's the question. Why would God keep knowledge from Adam and Eve? So Satanists, or these kinds of Satanists, immediately say that God is bad because he wanted to withhold knowledge, and that the devil's good because he wanted to give us knowledge. Which, of course, only works if you've never been a parent. Yeah. Because if you're a parent, you realize that there are some aspects of knowledge that are inappropriate for children to have at that time as children, but when they grow and mature and can handle the ramifications of that knowledge, you then tell them. There's this theologian called James, his name is James P. Jordan, not B. Jordan, and a couple other guys I was listening to, and he basically said that, look, Adam and Eve were babies. Like if you look at them like developmentally, they were not what we would consider grown or adults, and definitely not in God's mind. And so when God says, you can't eat of this fruit, Jordan says, listen, he never said you will never be able to eat from this fruit. And he never said, I will never give you knowledge. What he said was, right now, you can't eat it. And so his argument is God would have eventually given them that knowledge and that wisdom. But they went and got it at a time that was too it was too advanced for them to deal with the ramifications of that. And obviously, when you look at the world, then, you know, that's why, you know, we had the conversation with Aaron Ron. He's like, why didn't he tell us the scientific method? Why didn't he tell us about evolution? Why didn't he tell us about this? I'm like, these assumptions are, I have a hard time, like, with the logic. So I'm like, okay, we had this massive advancement. We split the atom last century. What did we do with that knowledge?
Right.
We killed a bunch of people.
Exactly.
The Germans are experts at ingenuity and precision. And they use that efficiency and precision not only to create, honestly, the most powerful war machine ever. And I'm including over the American war machine. Because I'm adjusting for technology based on the time period. But for the time period, I mean, these people took over they were about to take over the world. And so what did we do with that knowledge? We killed a bunch of people. That's what we did with it.
Yeah.
And now you got people experimenting on human beings, and the question is, well, why shouldn't we? Because if knowledge is ultimate, then there's a lot of information you can get from experimenting on human beings, right? If knowledge is the ultimate, why not? Because science can't tell you that it's right or wrong to experiment on that human being. So what I would say is that God gave us the knowledge that we needed, and the minute that we master that, then he was going to give us other knowledge. So for example, if you can get Genesis 1:26 down, right? Genesis 1:26 is that all of us are image bearers of God and crowned with glory and honor. If we could really truly get that down, then there is a plethora of knowledge that God would give us, I believe. What happens when you give knowledge and power to people who are not mature enough or righteous enough to wield it? It always ends in death and destruction. That's why we have laws limiting when you can drink alcohol, when you can operate a motor vehicle, etc., etc., etc. So you know, this idea that knowledge is ultimate and that God is bad for withholding knowledge only can function in a Western Christian environment where people are safe and know not to murder their neighbor. But if the sky is empty and the universe is empty and there's no God, there's no ultimate defining reason for why you can't murder your neighbor. Science can't tell you not to murder your neighbor. Science can only tell you what happens to your neighbor's body after you kill him. But science can't tell you that you shouldn't have killed your neighbor. So, you know, Sam Harris notwithstanding. So that to me is a flaw in the reasoning. Like this idea that if knowledge is ultimate, then yeah, sure, God is a bad guy for withholding knowledge. But if human beings are ultimate, and if love is ultimate, then there are times when the loving thing to do would be to withhold knowledge. Any parent knows that. If you have a child, there's a whole bunch of shit you don't tell your kids and you withhold from them.
For sure.
If you're a good parent.
For sure. Have you thought about that Genesis story in conjunction with Hoffman's ideas?
Wait, say that again?
Like the idea of,
I feel like
maybe that should be something offline.
Yeah, it's probably a mean.
Yeah, because I think it's going to be a deeper.
That's probably a mean thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, and so like I think that's something that needs to be thought through a little bit more into criticism. I mean, there are ways to criticize Christianity, God, for sure. But I think you know, the criticism has to be augmented a bit. Like, okay, let's take Prometheus for example. Fire. We've got a 2-year-old right now. Okay, should I? You know, what would happen
Give him a
if
candle?
What would happen if Dorian? What would happen if Dorian said, "You know what, Mom and Dad are really fucked up. How could you not show Orion fire?" And he takes a lighter and he shows Orion how to work the lighter and set it on fire. Is that something that you think that would be good or bad? Who's the bad guy in that scenario? You've got us, the parents, who kept the knowledge of fire away from Orion. You've got Dorian, who gave him the knowledge of fire. And then you've got Orion, who just burned down the house and killed everybody in it. Who's the bad guy there? I'd say Dorian's the bad guy. You expose this child to knowledge that he was not mature enough to handle.
Well, that's very interesting.
So Prometheus, I mean, it's great. You gave us fire, bro. right? But that's not always good all the time.
Very interesting analogy.
Right? And if I did that, the police would absolutely punish me. Mm-hmm. If the house got burnt down and they did an investigation and it figured out that I did it, would be like, aggravated child neglect or some other horrible thing, and I would rightly be punished for giving my child that knowledge. Mm-hmm. So that's like the first thing where I'm like, I get the criticism like on the outset. Oh my God, God is withholding knowledge from people. Like, I get the criticism on the outset. I just think that because there is this assumption that the Bible was written by ignorant goat herders or whatever, which I'll put Moses and I'll put Moses' educational profile and what's his name? Nehemiah and Ezra. I'll put their educational profiles against the average person on the internet criticizing the biblical authors, and we can see. Like, read John Sailhammer and then tell me that the people who wrote the Old Testament were not exceptionally brilliant people.
Yeah.
It's like this chronological snobbery is what they call it. Just because the people were before us, it means that they're dumb, and we're not smarter than them. Like, that's why I said I was on that show with that atheist dude, right? And he was talking about how dumb people in the past were. I'm like, go look at a 4th grade elementary school paper. These kids have to do Latin and do debates in Latin. And go back and tell me that people in the past were not as intelligent as we are.
Even if you're just talking about your home back then, you know what I mean? It doesn't even have to be a studied person, but somebody that just lives life from the land, and they have to make do with what they have. If we're missing something, we go down to Walmart and find some substitute for what we need. They didn't have that option. So your mind had to really be moving, okay, how can I make the best of what we have, and how can we, make sure that our crops, everything, like they had to put so much thought into 100%. It, and the whole family worked together to get that. So that's something that we don't have that anymore,
100%.
Everybody's playing video games.
Yeah. So yeah, man, like, I definitely see the homie, like, brilliant musicianship. Lyrically,
yeah,
it makes sense. We're the sons of blind faith kneeling to a false Christ. That's the other thing, is like, and we've demonstrated this on this channel, right? Where people talk about blind faith. Or in Aaron Ra talked about, I'm an epistesist. I only hold the things that can be proven. He said faith was immoral. Shout out to Aaron Ra. And then we were talking about the
that interview's up on our channel. Just
the Hammurabi Stela.
Yes, I know. I never forgot that.
And I said, Aaron, how do you know that that's the real Stela? And he's like, well, it's the people at the Louvre. And I said, yeah, but how do you know that they're telling you the truth? How do you know they really found it that way? And
have you seen it? Have you been there?
Of course. He had seen it. He had touched it. What I'm saying is, how do you know that what they're claiming it is actually what it is? There's absolutely no. You just have to take their word for it. Obviously.
Yeah.
And he knew he was caught. I said, "You're being inconsistent." He goes, "Oh, shut up! I'm right. You're right. Look at it yourself. Look at it yourself. You'll see." Shout out to Aaron Ra. Thanks for doing the interview, big homie. Okay, so he talks about blind faith. I agree. Blind faith is bad, but Jesus never called us to have blind faith.
Right.
That's the other thing that poor Aaron wasn't prepared for.
Actually, the opposite. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This part, okay, prepare yourself to be insulted. When it says, "See the hordes ascend."
Hold on. I just want to talk about the place where Jesus talked about blind faith and where he specifically spoke against blind faith, actually, because a lot of people really think
that's true.
That that's the case. This is John chapter 10 verse 38, and it's very important. And this is one of those passages that it was clear that the homie was not familiar. Yeah, it was.
Oh no! And you kept saying, like, any child in Sunday school would be able to tell.
Yeah, I probably should
tell you this.
I probably should have said that. That's when he made the false assertion about they were just going through the wilderness killing people, just randomly killing people. Okay, guys, here is Jesus's take on blind faith. He said, "You're saying that I'm blaspheming because I said I am the Son of God." Now look what he says. "If I am not doing the works of my Father, don't believe me." That's in the imperative voice. That means he's commanding you. He's saying, if I'm not doing the works of my Father, then do not believe me. But if I do them, even though you do not believe me, believe the works, that you may know and understand that I'm in the Father and the Father's in me. Okay, so Jesus did not promote blind faith.
Right.
Jesus said, look, man, I'm making claims that nobody else in the world has ever claimed. However, if I'm doing stuff that normal people do, then you shouldn't believe me. But if I'm doing things that nobody's ever done before, then if you don't believe in me, if you don't like
Believe in
me,
the works.
at least believe the work. Believe what you're seeing before your very eyes. You know, I had a video. People were talking about what's your proof for God's existence or whatever. And I showed this video that was created by biologists at the highest levels.
Wild.
And it was originally shared not by a Christian, but by Richard Dawkins.
Right.
And it was literally, they used the terms, this is a micro machine. They talked about turbines, etc., and assembly lines.
Incredible.
All at the invisible cellular level. And they were talking about how DNA formed and all the rest of it. And you had all these, and I'm like, there you go, that's why. And people are like, oh, the blonde watchmaker thing. Like, they have these immediate arguments, but they're not thinking it through. Ladies and gentlemen, if I go to a beach and I see a brilliant design because of the waves and the sand and all the rest of it, okay, it looks aesthetically pleasing and maybe there might be a pattern there, but that is easily explicable from a naturalistic perspective. But dear listener, if on the same beach, on the same sand dune, there's a sign that says, if you want to ride the wave runners, the keys are here and the wave runners are over there. That sign was made by an intelligent individual. That didn't come about by nature, and I'm not looking at that sign and assuming it was made by someone because I'm looking for patterns. There's a difference between incidental patterning and directions and information and machinery.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Right.
So I show this video of these biologists who recreated this machine. And then you've got one strand that has to go this way and the other strand has to go the other way. And then they curve and make an assembly line, and the turbines are as fast as an airplane, they said.
Yeah.
It was a spinning and so people who see this for the first time are not looking to say, I need to pause and think that through. They immediately just go to canned arguments that do not work.
Yep.
And that's why Jesus said, if you don't believe me, at least believe what you're seeing. Because you would never... I had a guy tell me that it's possible that a rock could have written Romeo and Juliet. He literally...
I remember that, actually.
But that's where you have to go. That's where you have to go. So yeah. I'm sorry, like when I hear about the blind faith stuff, I'm like, I don't know, bro. I don't know. It just seems to me like we choose what we want to believe or not want to believe based on what the implications are. That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like to me. It's just what it looks like to me. Wheezy says, if there's a God, why are there multiple religions? Well, for the same reason that there are multiple political parties. Human beings are sinners, and we want to live life our own way. And so we construct religions that reflect our desires. So, for example, I was sitting with one of my Muslim friends. Shout out to the Muslims in the world. I was sitting with one of my Muslim friends, and I said, okay, you got one religion that says you can have up to 4 wives, and that if you go to war, you can have an unlimited amount of concubines that you can have endless sex with. You got another religion that says if you even look at a woman with lust in your heart, you're guilty. I said, Hussein, which religion sounds like a man created it? And which religion sounds like God created it?
Also, their heaven is rivers of wine and virgins.
Right. He said, Wallahi, I'm not going to answer that question. So I'm not going to answer that question.
Wallahi, I'm not going to.
I'm not going to answer that question.
Well, why ever not? That's an answer. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And then again, like the people who say, oh, I don't operate on faith. Like this has happened over and over on this show where I've said, do you believe the Big Bang happened? Yes. Were you there to observe it? No. How do you know it happened? Well, the red shift. How do you know that the interpretations of the red shift are accurate? Well, the scientists said it. Which scientists? I don't know. I read it in a book. You take all of that by faith. Yep. The average person, everything that you know about science is all faith. You haven't seen the vast majority of proof for any of this stuff.
Right. Right.
And even if you did see something on redshift, how do you know that what that scientist is saying about the redshift is true?
And it's crazy.
Because just one more thing. There have been multiple cases in which scientists, I mean, good night. There's this concept called scientific racism that was affirmed by peer review, which was that black people were inherently, ontologically, a lower subspecies of Homo sapien than white people. And it was affirmed by the scientific community. And if the North wouldn't have won the Civil War, it would be settled fact. That's just a fact. That's a fact.
Right.
So when people say, oh, we can trust the scientists because of peer review, that's not true. As a matter of fact, peer review has proven to be one of the most weakest ways of corroborating information. It's just, go ahead, say what you're going to say.
I don't remember. Yeah, I agree with you. We've seen it a bunch of times.
Yeah. You none of you have observed the Big Bang. It's impossible. So I just wish people would be honest. You don't believe in the Big Bang because you saw evidence. You don't believe you believe in the Big Bang on faith. Period. End of story. Like, that's it. That's why you believe it. And so what I would say is, I think logically, look, we talked about this in the other one, the hard problem of consciousness. And the issue of the origin of life. These are things that scientists haven't even gotten anywhere close to being able to understand. And there are many scientists, Hoffman being one, that says you're never going to be able to boot up consciousness from matter. That's never going to happen. Science is never. This is the other thing where people who reject God but hold to science are completely men and women of faith. It's because I'll say, explain the hard problem of consciousness to me. They say, we can't. Then I say, okay. And then they go, but we're going to figure it out later on. That's an act of, that's faith. That's faith. And look, there's a difference between a very difficult puzzle and a mystery and a logical inconsistency. The scientific method is based on logic. It's beholden to logic. So there is never going to be a scientist that discovers a square circle. It's not like there's going to be some part of the universe where square circles exist. It's logically impossible for matter to boot up consciousness. We've never seen that happen, and we never will. So that's my issue. My issue is, let's just be honest here. Right. And then here's Alan. You can't test the Bible. Wrong again, Alan. For example, Alan, the Bible says that Pontius Pilate was procurator of Rome. He was. Okay? And there are not many historical records about Pontius Pilate, by the way. There's about 2 or 3. And one of those is the New Testament, which mentions him, throughout all the Gospels. But I'm just taking it as one source. So, guys... We got to do a little bit more research and think through our arguments a little bit more. Okay? And we need to familiarize ourselves with the worldview of the people that we're disagreeing with. Because if you don't, then I think you're robbing yourself. You're at a disadvantage. And look, at the end of the day, I'm more and more convinced that belief and unbelief is more of an act of volition than cognition, meaning it's more of an act of the will, what we want to be true, versus people trying to pretend that they're just objectively observing facts and that's how they came to the conclusion. That is not how human beings operate. Nobody, you're not an android. You don't sit there and just logically deduce something and that's how you come to, no. There's a bunch of things. There's your background, there's your history, there's your experiences, there's your inclinations. Look, if there was a religion that said everybody with a certain type of melanin count is a bad person, I am by default not going to want to believe that religion is true. And I'm going to go out of my way to prove that it's wrong. And if people cannot acknowledge that, it's like people that say, oh, you just hold on to religion because you want a crutch. And I say, of course. And then I say, and you hold on to your atheism because you want to believe that there is no accountability for you so you can live your life your way because you don't want to be beholden to God.
Yep.
And they won't admit it.
Yep. It's true.
Can we at least admit that it's like part of the motive or a perk of unbelief? Can we admit this is the denialism? And you know, we
some people admitted it.
Yeah,
Remember we were
I agree with that
video.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree.
And he had
with
gone onto the campus. It was a college campus.
Yep.
And he was talking to that one guy, and and that was the discussion that they had. He was talking about like the laws of God or something, and then he said to him like, don't you think it's kind of peculiar?
Now here's Daniel. The authors of the Bible were around at the time, so obviously they would know this basic fact. Daniel, according to many atheists, the New Testament was written hundreds of years after Jesus. So no, it's not that obvious. Secondly, Daniel, as I said, there's only about 2 or 3 sources that mention Pontius Pilate outside of the New Testament. So no, they would not have known that unless they were there. But I agree with you. But what you just said, it does not go with the standard atheist argumentation about the New Testament. But I appreciate it. If you believe that the authors of the New Testament were contemporary to Pontius Pilate, excellent, great. You're almost on the team, Daniel.
We'll start running the water.
Yeah. So look, I mean, I love the song. I like, you know, I understand where he's coming from. I just think that this is kind of entry level. Okay, so now I promise you, Aladdin, I'm not trying to mess with you, right? So Aladdin 131 says the Bible was manipulated hundreds of years after Jesus. Okay. Aladdin, where's your proof for that? What do you mean it was manipulated? And get us the evidence for that. What are you talking about? This is just one example. The Bible was manipulated hundreds of years after Jesus. Okay, Aladdin, what is the proof for that? Where's your evidence? Don't do that. Give him time.
That's what they do on Jeopardy when they're giving you the time.
I know, but you're being funny.
No, I'm trying to keep people occupied while we're just sitting here.
Okay. I'll give you guys a spoiler. Okay. He's not going to produce anything because what he's saying isn't true. But this stuff just gets thrown out. Look, here's Daniel. He says, that doesn't discount all the other ridiculous nonsense in the Bible. So Daniel makes a false assertion, right? He makes a completely false assertion, right? Gets proven completely wrong. And instead of saying, holy shit, I was wrong, what does he do? Well, there's other nonsense in the Bible. Okay, that tells me that information and logic is not the only way that Daniel comes to conclusions about these topics, right? Because if it was, then you would adjust for that and say, holy shit, I was wrong, right? But what does he do? Well, what about this? Okay. All right. A lot of Hitchens and Matt Dillahunty fanboys. Here's Daniel. If you would introduce the Bible to an adult for the first time, they would never believe it. Daniel. Soraya and I have introduced the Bible for the first time to lots of adults, and they ended up getting baptized and becoming insane Christians who are more fundamental than we are.
Right.
Daniel can be forgiven because, honestly, he's a kid. Like, literally, he's like 14 years old. All the different versions, the existence of the Eastern and Western churches. Okay, a different translation, the NIV and the ESV, is not a manipulation of the Bible. The existence of Eastern Western churches has to do with personality and theological conflicts that has nothing to do with the Bible. That is not proof that it was manipulated in any way, shape, or form. That makes no sense whatsoever. Furthermore, Roman Catholics don't even believe in the doctrine of sola scriptura. And if the Bible could be easily manipulated, there'd be no reason for them to reject sola scriptura. So you have no actual evidence to say what you're talking about. A translation, listen, the Bible was written in Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic, okay? And so if you're going to read it in English, it's obviously a translation. It is ridiculous to say that because something is translated from the original language to the language of the common people, that is a form of manipulation, especially considering all of us now in 2021. I mean, I've got software that can tell you the Greek lemma, the Hebrew lemma, how many times the word has been used in the Old Testament, the sentence structure, what tense it is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of this is just people not knowing much about the information that they're dealing with. Okay, so there you go. So much love to everybody. It was a really, really fun song. I'm giving it a 10. I'm giving it an absolute 10. What do you give it?
9.3.
9.3. What kept it from a 10?
Probably because I don't agree with the lyrics. So
what? You don't agree? Yeah, I don't agree with the lyrics either.
And crushing the face of God. It's like,
okay, I want to end with this because Emily says, fair to say, many of us don't know our shit about the actual texts and teachings in the Bible. We're basing on our personal experiences with religion, often awful. So this dude is gay, right? The Gaul from Gorgoroth is gay. Okay. And you could just imagine how he has been treated. I mean, we saw in the documentary, people came to his place and were attacking him and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. So I have a hard time with hitting him on the lyrics because I'm almost certain the man has probably had horrible experiences with Christians. Horrible. Mm-hmm. And so when a person has been hurt by representatives of Christianity, I have a hard time being like, what do you mean he's gone now? I hope he didn't die. Did he die?
Or maybe he's talking about somebody who was in the chat.
No, Gaul was the lead singer of Gorgoroth or whatever. He was the guy that did the band and all that. I hope he didn't die. Oh no. No. He was in the band till 2007. He's still alive. Okay, so maybe he's out of the band. Okay, he left the band. Whew, okay. So that was in 2007. When was the song written? I cannot. I'm so mad that they changed the thingamajiggy.
Wow.
So frustrating. What year was this song written? 2009. So he was out of the band. So this is not even Gaul. This is somebody else. The guy's name is Pest. Gaul isn't in the song. It's Pest. Okay. So maybe Pest had a bad experience with religion. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe he had a bad experience with religion, and he was, So anytime I see something like that, crushing the face of God, yada yada yada, I always assume that it's because we hurt them. Mm-hmm. So when I see that, I go, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Really, really good song. Really good song. I'm going to go ahead and give this a 10, and you're just wrong. There you are, dear listener. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.